Hello, dear viewers. Today on Turkish series Stars, we're diving into the tender, twisting journey of a couple who captured millions of hearts, Barış Arduç and Elsen Sangu. Before we begin, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap that join button to support the channel. Your support helps us bring you the most heartfelt updates from the world of your favorite stars. For months, Barış and Elsen have been among the most cherished pairs in Turkey. From the first spark of their on-screen chemistry to the gentle moments they shared online, fans followed every step and believed that their story would naturally lead to wedding bells. The expectation was almost a promise, built from the way their glances lingered in interviews, the laughter that came so easily during behind-the-scenes clips, and the respectful way they spoke about each other's talent and spirit. It seemed inevitable, a proposal, a ring, a ceremony, a fairy tale ending. But when the long-awaited announcement finally arrived, it was not the glossy, tie-it-with-a-bow moment the public imagined. It was something real. It was emotional. It was complicated. Standing in front of cameras with a quiet steadiness, Barış chose a different kind of truth. He said he was about to become a father for the first time, and that his world had shifted overnight. His priority, he explained, must be his son, the newborn life that had changed his definition of love and responsibility. He spoke with care about timing, about fairness, about not forcing a ceremony simply because everyone demanded a storybook chapter. He explained that marrying in this fragile, formative moment could be unfair to both himself and to Elsen. There is a time for everything, he said, and this was the time to guide a tiny soul through his first breaths of the world. Within hours, his words had spread across the internet like wildfire. Fans split into two camps, the debate roaring through timelines and comment sections. Some praised him for stepping up, for putting fatherhood above public pressure. Others worried about what it meant for Elsen, wondering if she would be left adrift in an undefined role while the spotlight turned elsewhere. Was this a goodbye, whispered in careful language? Or was it simply a pause before the next page? People tried to read between lines that might not exist, projecting hopes and fears into every pause, every phrase, every look. A few days later, it was Elsen's turn to speak. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't make a spectacle. Calm, composed, and deeply sincere, she shared her heart with a gentle clarity that silenced the noise for a moment. She said she recognized that a new chapter had opened in Barış's life and that fatherhood, for him, was something extraordinary. She reminded everyone that marriage is not a race or a finish line. It's a journey, a choice made in the right moment for the right reasons. For now, she explained, what matters most is being there for each other, supporting, not rushing, because love, when it is true, does not vanish under pressure. It withstands it. Her words pulsed with maturity and strength. She reminded the world that love sometimes means patience, not possession, presence, not performance. And for a while, the frenzy softened. You could feel hearts leaning into the quiet of her perspective, trying to see beyond the headlines. Still, the magazines would not sleep. Whispers began to swirl, scribbled in margins that became articles, then captions, then hashtags. Some reports suggested that a thread from the past, Barış's connection to his former spouse, Gulam Osman, was woven into the fabric of his new life as a father. Fans worried that history might repeat itself, that old patterns would retrace their steps, that the stitching on this fragile moment might give way. But even as rumors tried to take control, Elsen's stillness reshaped the narrative. She refused to panic in public. She declined to fight shadows. Her silence became a message of its own. Trust over spectacle, grace over noise. Friends close to her say that she has chosen to stand beside him quietly, understanding how fatherhood can remake a man from the inside out. They say she sees beyond the surface-level narrative, the timelines, the labels, the performative gestures, and recognizes the work of a life being rearranged by responsibility and tenderness. She knows that the man she cares for is moving through a profound change, and she respects the gravity of that change even when it interrupts the plan that everyone assumed was waiting for them both. People who know Barış well describe a whirlwind of emotions beneath his calm. Fame pulls one way, the audience another. Private life demands quiet while the industry insists on light. Love asks for patience, fatherhood asks for devotion, and the clock keeps ticking no matter how you beg it to slow down. On set, colleagues have noticed him drifting into thought between takes, eyes far away as though he's watching a memory play out behind the lens. He laughs less loudly, moves more carefully. Sometimes he seems distant, not because he doesn't care, but because he cares so much he's afraid of knocking something delicate off balance. One colleague, gently protective, said something that resonated: Barış loves Elsen. That isn't the question. The question is how a man becomes the kind of father he wants to be without breaking the very love that made him brave enough to try. Fatherhood changes a man in ways that defy explanation, deeper than words, older than tradition. Anyone who pretends that it doesn't is lying, the colleague added. Any love that survives it grows stronger. It was this vulnerability. A rare honesty from someone so used to performing certainty, that captured the public imagination. The doubts, the confessions, the willingness to face discomfort instead of painting from a perfect script, it felt real. Suddenly, timelines weren't just filled with gossip. They were filled with empathy, with messages from people who had walked similar paths, who had held babies at 3 a.m. and wondered where their old life had gone, and whether the new one could hold the people they loved without breaking them. Of course, the debate raged on anyway. Online discussions divided into two clear arguments. On one side were those who believed that a child must always come first, that the foundations of a family are laid not with rings but with responsibility. On the other were those who insisted that romantic love, when nurtured in tandem, could give a child the safest world of all. And that delaying a promised future could make that future weaker, not stronger. Both sides spoke from conviction. Both sides believed in love. Neither side had the full picture. Meanwhile, Elsen chose a path that looked simple from the outside but required remarkable strength. She poured herself into her work, reading scripts for a new series late into the night, annotating margins, practicing lines that asked her to transform even as her real life demanded the same. On set, she arrived prepared, composed, warm. In interviews, when asked about Barış, she refused to turn their story into a headline. She spoke of him with kindness and clarity, calling him a good father and a good man, two titles that do not always arrive together. People noticed. They admired the way she held her head high without turning cold, the way she honored her heart without demanding the world bow to it. Insiders say that the decision not to marry now did not arrive easily. It was the result of sleepless nights, honest conversations, and the kind of reflection that can leave you exhausted even when you don't move an inch. It was chosen, not stumbled upon, and it was carried forward even when it invited criticism. Perfection would have been easier, a ring, a photo, a promise. But honesty, though messier, stood taller. And in choosing honesty, Barış earned both respect and reproach, two weights that can feel equally heavy. And what of the past? The whispers said that Ghulam Osman's silence told its own story. Some claimed she supports his decision to focus on being a father, that old grievances have given way to a wider view of what truly matters. Whether or not these whispers are precise, the absence of public tension matters. It creates room to breathe, room to grow, room for the present to stand on its own without constantly arguing with what came before. For Elsen, this is not easy. Anyone who says otherwise is not listening. It takes strength to love without a deadline, to offer space when every instinct shouts to close the distance. Friends of hers insist that her love is still strong. They say she knows this is not the right moment to force anything, that the story she shares with Barış is bigger than a date and deeper than a dress. Their chapter may be paused, but the book remains open. This moment reminds us of something we often forget in the rush to celebrate the big gestures. Love is not limited to weddings and ceremonies, nor does it evaporate when the script goes off course. Sometimes, love is patience. Sometimes, love is understanding. Sometimes, love is trusting that what is meant to grow will grow when given sunlight and time, not speed and pressure. The most beautiful promises are often the ones made quietly, in living rooms where no cameras shine, in late-night phone calls that end with a soft, steady, "I'm here." So, what do you think, dear viewers? Is Barış doing the right thing by centering his son during these early days, even if it means stepping away from the fairy tale timing everyone imagined? Or should love, the romantic kind we dream about, come first above all else? Do you think time will lead Barış and Elsen back to the moment when vows feel right, when the journey becomes a shared ceremony rather than a shared secret? Share your thoughts below, because your voice shapes this conversation as much as any headline. And if this story touched you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the join button here on Turkish series Stars for more intimate, heart-led updates from the world of your favorite celebrities. Tell us who you want us to cover next, and we'll keep listening, watching, and bringing you closer to the human stories behind the glitter. Remember, behind every headline is a real heart, a real history, and a love trying to find its way home in the light.